He actually said he's not afraid of anything. Those are his exact words, not afraid of anything. The man who has spent years afraid of the Epstein files and is still blocking the full release of the complete Epstein files, the man who wears silly hats because he's afraid his hair might be blown out of place, the man who's afraid of letting anyone see his natural skin color or his college transcript or his SAT scores, the man who's afraid of falling down the steps of Air Force One, and the man who was very, very afraid of being drafted into the United States Army during the Vietnam War. That man today said he's not afraid of anything. And it could not be more perfect that the question that provoked Donald Trump to tell the lie that he's not afraid of anything, included a reference to Vietnam.
The Iranian regime has told Sky News, if you put boots on the ground in Iran, it will be another Vietnam. Are you afraid of that?
No, I'm really not afraid of anything.
Iran's deputy foreign minister was asked by Sky News today what would happen if U.S. troops invaded Iran, and he said, quote, just read what happened in Vietnam. Donald Trump was so afraid of being drafted and sent to Vietnam in 1968 that he got a note from a doctor saying that his feet just couldn't take it. Those same feet that have covered miles and miles and miles of golf courses and continue to, just couldn't take it. And in those days, rich kids like Donald Trump had an easy time escaping the draft with notes from doctors. But as the American quagmire in Vietnam deepened, as the death toll increased, the war dragged on into the 1970s, the rules of the draft became stricter, and the Army became harder to avoid. But Donald Trump was already safe. He'd already skipped the draft. His boots were never going to hit the ground in Vietnam. Donald Trump wasn't the only guy his age who was terrified of going to Vietnam. Most young American men subject to the draft were afraid of going to Vietnam and did everything they could to avoid it. But now Donald Trump, the most cowardly human being ever to have the title of President of the United States, says, I'm really not afraid of anything. He's lying, of course, as he is in response to almost every question he is asked. Donald Trump lied today in response to an intelligence official he appointed resigning in protest of Donald Trump's war. In true Trump administration style, Joseph Kent, Donald Trump's director of the National Counterterrorism Center, announced his resignation on social media, saying in his social media post and his resignation letter to Donald Trump, I cannot, in good conscience, support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. To which Donald Trump said this.
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security.
Always? Always. Really? I always thought he was weak on security. Here's what Donald Trump said on social media when he appointed Joe Kent to be the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. A soldier, Green Beret, and CIA officer, Joe has hunted down terrorists and criminals since his entire adult life. Joe will help us keep America safe by eradicating all terrorism. And now that same Donald Trump says, I always said, I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. And no one proves Donald Trump to be a liar more effectively than Donald Trump. And so tonight, I suggest you take your pick about when Donald Trump was lying about Joe Kent, when he appointed him, or today when Joe Kent quit. Of course, when we're dealing with a pathological liar like Donald Trump, he could be lying both times. But Donald Trump has definitely caught himself in at least one lie about Joe Kent. Donald Trump's director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, refused to rush to the defense of Donald Trump and his war. And that's exactly what she was supposed to do in this situation. But she also refused to condemn Joe Kent, which was the other thing she was supposed to do. Joe Kent, who was a member of the intelligence community that Tulsi Gabbard theoretically commands. Now, I'm going to read Tulsi Gabbard's statement in full. And I ask you to listen for what I could not find in her statement: a defense of Donald Trump's choice to go to war, or a clear statement that Joe Kent is wrong. Donald Trump's Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, did not say either one of those things. Instead, she said this: Donald Trump was overwhelmingly elected by the American people to be our president and commander-in-chief. As our commander-in-chief, he is responsible for determining what is and is not an imminent threat, and whether or not to take action he deems necessary to protect the safety and security of our troops, the American people, and our country. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence is responsible for helping coordinate and integrate all intelligence to provide the President and Commander-in-Chief with the best information available to inform his decisions. After carefully reviewing all the information before him, President Trump concluded that the terrorist Islamist regime in Iran posed an imminent threat, and he took action based on that conclusion. Now, notice Tulsi Gabbard did not say an imminent threat to the United States, just an imminent threat, but she also didn't agree with it. Tulsi Gabbard refused to say the simple words at the end of that statement: I agree with Donald Trump's conclusion. That's what she was supposed to say. And what she did instead was give us a public display of insubordination, as much as you could possibly expect from a Director of National Intelligence. Just a direct defiance of Donald Trump in that statement. If Tulsi Gabbard was going to say there was an imminent threat to the United States from Iran, that was the place to say it, right there, and she refused to say it. She refused to say it today. And in a situation like this, Tulsi Gabbard's silence on the imminent threat question, what she thinks of it, is obviously deliberate, and it leaves open the question of whether she agrees with Joe Kent that, quote, Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. It is inconceivable that Tulsi Gabbard agrees with Donald Trump and refuses to say publicly that she agrees with Donald Trump. It is possible that Donald Trump is incapable of reading the implications of Tulsi Gabbard's statement, and no one in the White House would dare probably bring it to his attention. It is also possible that Donald Trump is just incapable of just reading a statement by anyone about anything. Any other president would read such a statement as a public disagreement with their Director of National Intelligence, and that person's resignation would be demanded instantly. But Donald Trump, maybe too distracted and too busy juggling his lies, and might not be able to keep up with everyone who is disagreeing with him, or implicitly, in Tulsi Gabbard's case, calling him a liar. No president in history has ever claimed to drop bombs just for fun. That would, of course, brand that president as a sociopath. And so, of course, Donald Trump said exactly that. On Saturday, in a telephone interview with NBC News, Donald Trump said that he might continue to bomb an oil facility on Karg Island in Iran, quote, just for fun. That phrase will live in infamy with Donald Trump's name for hundreds of years, as historians are able to isolate those words, just for fun, as the conclusive proof they will need to make the case that Donald Trump is a sociopath, that Donald Trump was a mad bomber in every sense. Every historian will be able to see that he was a madman who thought bombing was fun. The Wall Street Journal is reporting tonight a confirmation of some previous reporting that Russia is helping Iran target U.S. military forces. That means Russia may be responsible for the Iranian attack that killed the first 6 American military personnel killed in Donald Trump's war. The Wall Street Journal reports, quote, Russia has been expanding its intelligence sharing and military cooperation with Iran, providing satellite imagery and improved drone technology to aid Tehran's targeting of U.S. forces in the region. People familiar with the matter said Russia is trying to keep its closest Middle Eastern partner in the fight against the United States and Israel military might and prolong a war that is benefiting Russia militarily and economically. Russia has been providing Iran with the locations of U.S. military forces in the Middle East. That cooperation has deepened in early days of the war, with Russia recently providing satellite imagery directly to Iran. And what has Donald Trump done about that? What has Donald Trump done about Vladimir Putin helping Iran target U.S. military personnel and perhaps having helped Iran kill U.S. military personnel? What is Donald Trump doing about that? Donald Trump has, of course, done absolutely nothing, because it's Vladimir Putin we're talking